What is the purpose of lowest price contracts?
The purpose for lowest price contracts is to give contracting officers one approach to evaluating an offer. So as many as you guys know, proposal and pricing are usually the main components of any sort of offer from a government contractor. Putting a special emphasis on the evaluation of lowest price is a way for contracting to not, say, overcomplicate or to have to put an over amount of diligence into reading through proposals. We often see this reflected on lower dollar value contracts where it's just not as important per se. And also contracts where scopes are much more controlled and much more limited. We very often see requirements grow with the size and scope and complexity of the requirement, which also means the more simple, straightforward, or maybe even small the requirement is, relatively speaking, of course, is we can see a sliding up and down of the emphasis, the weighting, the grading, and the evaluation factors. So lowest price contracts, they're certainly not only small contracts, that's not what I'm saying, but we do see a lot of them kind of hanging out in that area.
How do you write a lowest price proposal that wins?
So like what's required in a lowest price proposal? So very often you will not see past performance, previous experience as a requirement for a lowest price bid. Typically, a lowest price bid is going to consist of price, and some of them truly could just be that, price only, or price with some sort of technical approach, salient features, some sort of technical write-up speaking to the methodology, the approach to the what, the how, perhaps the when the contract is going to be performed, right? How are you going to perform it? What's that going to look like? What's your timeline? How are you going to meet the period performance? Things like this can be answered inside of the technical for a lowest price bid. And then of course, it's the price. Some examples, kind of outside of services, maybe where you see in supplies contracts also, is they could be asking for name brand, right? Or maybe name brand or equivalent. So in the technical for something like that type of contract requirement, you would have to show the actual specs, right? Or the drawings or whatever to reflect the name brand or equal to demonstrate that it's meeting those minimal check boxes that contracting is looking for. Because when they are evaluating your offer on a lowest price bid, that's truly what they're doing. They're not slicing up your proposal to see if it's exceptional, if it's satisfactory, if it's below satisfactory, right? That kind of is what it is. It's pass fail. It's satisfactory or unsatisfactory. When we get to more like best value contracts, you can see, above satisfactory, exceptional ratings, and a number of other definitions that they can be weighting off of. This is truly going to be pass fail, look at the price, or look at the price, pass fail. Typically, it's pass fail first, because if you fail it, they're not even going to look at your price.
How do you price a lowest price contract so that you are the low bidder?
So we are still speaking kind of in generalities here. If we're talking about all sorts of contracts, it's hard to just say one thing. But for pricing, I break out pricing into parts and people. I think it's a really easy way to remember it, and it's highly accurate. Okay, every contract is typically some combination of parts, people, or both, right? In construction, it can be labor, materials, right? In service contracts, it can be just the people, just the labor, right? And management, and things like that. In supplies contracts, well, it's just going to be the supplies. It's just going to be the parts, right? So parts, people, or some sort of mix. So, pretty often you just find in over complicating perhaps the inclusion of bells and whistles, over extraction of the statement of work. And sometimes this isn't you. This can be the reseller, this can be the subcontractor, this could be someone who you're getting pricing from that you're building your pricing off of. They're trying to make the contract bigger for themselves, which either leaves you with lower profit or they just overprice the entire contract, which is exactly what we're speaking to in this question. So it is incredibly apparent and important imperative, that's the word that I'm looking for, that because the subs will always lose you the bid, right? It's important to have those walkthrough discussions. As soon as you get pricing, don't just take their pricing from an email quote that they send you. Get on the phone, have them, walk you through each item so that you can scrutinize the parts and the people.
Does the lowest price always win in the lowest price bid?
Okay, so this is a huge misconception, guys. Lots of complaining in the forums and on the internet of people who don't quite understand government contracting, thinking, well, it always goes to the lowest bidder, so there's no point of bidding. Actually, that's not true. Even on lowest price contracts, it is not always the lowest price who wins. And I will tell you why. The reason why is more often than you would believe, the lowest price is, as I already said, one, either not technically acceptable, so they can't be evaluated if they didn't check the box, right? Or maybe there's not even technical acceptability required. So, okay, throw that out the window and it's just price. If the price is too low and contracting does not think that they will be able to format that right, they will go to the next highest bidder. Okay, so there's no price reasonable realism happening. Price realism. Okay, there's price reasonableness and price realism. I'm talking about price realism. If your price is not realistic, even if it's the lowest, it does not necessarily have to be evaluated. And if it's a lowest price bid and you're the lowest price, but your price is not realistic, they do not have to go with you. They are not forced to go with you, and very often they will skip over you to go to the next higher price.
How low is too low for lowest price?
So you don't want to be losing sleep at night, okay? No business is better than bad business. I'll say that again. Having no business right now is better than having bad business, and probably at any point in time, right? So you don't want to lose sleep. You don't want to be coming in with your margins being so low that there's no sort of, no cushion, right? No wiggle room, no safety net. Now, it is an art. This part of it isn't a science because you also need to be competitive with your price. That means you have to really understand what you're going after so that you are accurate and you're not over protecting yourself. But you do need to make sure that you have a bit of a layer of protection for unforeseen things that tend to happen. So losing sleep at night and not having any sort of risk protection, I would say upfront is too low of an offer. If you find yourself doing that, I think it's too low.
How do you know if lowest price contracts are right for your GovCon business?
So I think lowest price contracts, they do have a place in a lot of government contractors' arsenal, if you will. For newer government contractors, maybe that place is larger because, as I said, for example, you can find a lot of contracts that don't require past performance per se. Or, like I said, the proposals just in general are not necessarily as, large, comprehensive. So it's not as much of a turnoff or an intimidation factor for folks who are newer to writing government contracts. But even more established government contractors, there can still be a place in their portfolio as well for lowest price contracts. It truly just comes down to, at the end of the day, how much money you're trying to make, what is the level of effort you're putting into these, opportunities, because everything should be evaluated from an ROI, return on investment standpoint, right? If it's going to make you money and it's what you have to put in isn't as much as you're going to get out of it, okay, it's up for consideration. Then at the end of the day, the main thing that I want to say about it is there's only so many hours in the day, right? There's so many opportunities going in your pipeline. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the opportunity cost. If you do decide to go after, one opportunity, that means you may not be going after this other opportunity, especially as you get busier and you build up your pipeline, right? So those sorts of decisions are going to kind of take root. So it's really a staged thing, because this answer is different for somebody who's never won a contract or someone who's won 10 contracts and a company that's won 100 contracts. Okay, the answer is going to be very different. So I can't just speak, blanketly to an entire industry. For somebody who has nothing, you can fill up, predominantly your entire funnel, perhaps, if you want, with lowest price bids. If you're somewhere that's, kind of more intermediate stage, you're coming out of the beginner stage, maybe it's 50-50. And as you tend to grow, you may prefer and optimize for scopes with or contracts with larger scopes, contracts with longer period durations, which is just, by default going to, take you naturally away from more of the lowest price bids as you start to climb that ladder. So I think it really ties more to your strategy and your stages as a company, really more as anything else, as a driver to what role lowest price bids are going to play in your portfolio this year, because next year may be different. So guys, none of this is worth anything if you don't know how to put together compliant and competitive bids and proposals like I've been talking about in this video. That's why I created GovRFP, and very recently I set the beginning modules to GovRFP to absolutely free, so you can actually for free go through the training and build actual proposal outline for federal contract. So if you are someone who is brand new to proposals, or you're somebody who has been doing proposals already, I would encourage everybody to go through this training to see what it has to offer for you, to compare maybe to what you've already been doing. Or if you have nothing, it's going to take you from 0 to 1 very, very quickly, so you can actually put your proposals on the right track to being, like I said, compliant and competitive. And it's not just proposals, but it's also pricing that we offer in the training. And if you did decide you want to get into the entire training, we have that offer there for you as well. But for an email address only, no credit card required, you can right now hop into GovRFP. All you have to do is go to my website, GovKidMethod.com. At the top, click on GovRFP, and there's just one button that says unlock the modules. Put in your email address, and you are off to the races. If you enjoyed today's video, you got something out of it, let me know down below in the comments what that was. Smash the like button for the algorithm. And most importantly, if you are new here, welcome. I'd love to have you be part of our growing community as always. So consider subscribing to the channel here at GovKidMethod. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you all in the next one. Take care.